Hi everyone. So my name is Leanne. I'm a polyamory educator and I run the page Polyphilia. And I'm here to answer your questions about polyamory. Drop kind of where you're watching this from in the chat and feel free to ask me questions and I'll pick some from the comments to show up on the screen. So a little bit about me. In terms of kind of my current polyamorous dynamic, I guess, like while the questions roll in. I am in, I guess, like a loose bisexual quad, I guess you can call it that. I have a boyfriend and a girlfriend. My girlfriend is married, and I'm very close to her husband as well. And the four of us hang out a lot together. And yeah, so like that's kind of my core polycule. But all four of us also date like outside of the network. And yeah, it's all good times. So yeah, let us know where you're watching this from. I'm currently in the UK, and speaking of, in case you didn't know, we have a lot of other events coming up at Field. I'm actually going to be co-hosting the first ever Field Social in London. They've done similar events in the US and other places, but this is the first one that's happening in the UK, I think. And so I will be there on June 12th at, I think the place is called Double Standard. So yeah, if you'd like to say hi to me in person, I'll be there on June 12th in the evening. So yeah, come say hi to me in London. I'm also going to be doing another live stream similar to this one, just generally on non-monogamy next month on June 29th. So if you want to tune in for that and ask me some more questions, that would be great. So so you can ask me any questions about polyamory, whether you're new to it or if you're kind of more seasoned. You could ask me about like my relationship dynamic and how that works. You can ask for maybe kind of some advice or insight about kind of any kind of polyamorous situation that you're currently finding yourself in. And also don't forget that after this, I will be participating in a group chat as well. So if someone from Field could quickly put the link to the group chat in the comments. Yeah, like after this is a 1 hour live stream, and afterwards I'll be answering some more questions and talking to some of you all in the group chat, which will be in the Field app. So if someone could drop the link to that, then I'll see you there in an hour's time. But for now, over the next hour, I'll be answering some questions. Yeah, okay, we got people from Denmark and London, Utah, Canada, Northampton. Okay, yeah, across the pond. Amazing. Welcome. Okay, so yeah, just I guess like where do we start? I guess I can start with defining polyamory, since I think that's probably something to get out of the way. So I'm going to 101. So polyamory is one type of non-monogamy. So it's under the kind of general non-monogamy umbrella. So non-monogamy is just anything that isn't monogamy. So anything that isn't, two people in an exclusive relationship, romantically and sexually. Polyamory is the only type of non-monogamy where you are not only sexually non-exclusive, but also romantically non-exclusive. So other types of non-monogamy, like open relationships, swinging, etc., typically involve one romantic couple who have kind of sexual casual connections with other people. Whereas with polyamory, there is the potential to explore intimacy and connection and love and commitment, outside of that, and have multiple romantic relationships. So yeah, like I have two partners, and I've been with both of them for like about the same amount of time. I met my girlfriend last March and I met my boyfriend last June. And yeah, I get very different things from both of those relationships. And especially with kind of exploring and affirming kind of my queer identity. So yeah, so that's kind of what polyamory is. There are lots of different types of polyamory. Feel free to ask about those. And I am in what I would say is a kind of non-hierarchical polyamorous dynamic. So what I mean by that is that I do my best to kind of treat all my partners equally, or I guess, I have the opportunity to do that. They might want different things, and they get the opportunity to ask for and get those things. And each relationship kind of stands on its own and isn't kind of governed by the terms of another relationship. Whereas in kind of hierarchical polyamorous dynamics, one partner, kind of, a primary partner, perhaps a spouse, for example, might have kind of more decision-making power over what their partner can do in their other relationships. That's not how I roll. I kind of like to have kind of independent connections and to let each relationship be able to kind of explore its full potential. So that's kind of where I'm at. Oh, thank you. I can see some people already kind of know me from Instagram. Yeah, I really appreciate that. So yeah, other types of polyamory. So I've covered kind of hierarchical and non-hierarchical. And there's also kind of polyfidelity, which is basically if you are in a closed polyamorous relationship. So 3 or more people decide that they will only kind of be dating each other and not kind of seek new connections with other people. And I would say the 4th type is solo polyamory, which is where kind of you have an independent lifestyle. You kind of want to prioritize your autonomy and freedom and independence and commitment to yourself. And you can have multiple, serious relationships, but you might not kind of participate in the traditional markers commitment with them, such as living together or getting married or having kids. So on the outside, it looks very similar to being single, but obviously you're not single. You have multiple meaningful connections. You're just not kind of participating in what is known as the relationship escalator, as in kind of, doing those steps that you would typically consider kind of, when you're kind of progressing in a relationship. So those are the 4 types. I'm already getting some questions. Okay, so someone, Casey asks, what do you do when big emotions come up in polyamory? Do you ever feel overwhelmed? So yeah, I think polyamory and also relationships in general involve a lot of emotions. You're opening yourself up, you're being vulnerable, you're taking leaps of faith, and like even more so like in polyamory, right? Like I think there's this assumption that like if you're spreading yourself amongst multiple people, then you're taking less risks. But I actually think that you're taking more risks with polyamory because each relationship that you engage in means that you're holding up a mirror to yourself. And you do that even more if you have multiple connections. You learn a lot more, you challenge yourself a lot more, and you're vulnerable a lot more. At least, kind of in my experience. So yeah, big emotions are definitely a part of the process. And so I think the first thing to say is to embrace them and to accept that yeah, like that they're normal, and you don't have to kind of feel bad for experiencing them. I think that particularly for people who are new to polyamory, when they're making the transition from a long-term monogamous relationship, for example, it can be very challenging, and you feel like you want to go back to the safety and comfort of monogamy, which is kind of what you were doing before. But it's only through kind of putting yourself outside of your comfort zone and kind of challenging yourself and knowing like where you ultimately want to be that you get through to the other side of this process. Although of course there's a difference between challenging yourself in a relationship and straight up kind of betraying yourself, like if you're only doing polyamory because your partner wants to, or because there's some other motivation that isn't personal to you. So what else would I say about kind of big emotions coming up? Talk to your partner about it. I think don't feel like you have to do it alone, or that you have to keep it to yourself, or that it's bad to feel this way, because emotions happen. They're very normal. They make you human, and it's good to communicate to your partner about what you're experiencing. And perhaps maybe together you can figure out something that might help you feel more comfortable, or maybe it's just kind of talking it out and being able to kind of vent about how you feel. Like maybe part of that is already going to be a really helpful part of the process. Sometimes there isn't necessarily a solution to kind of feeling jealousy or overwhelm or insecurity. Like sometimes it just happens and you have to sit through it, and you get to the other side and you're like, oh, I'm still here, everything's fine. So I hope that helps. Let's see. Ronya asks, how did you meet your boy or girlfriend? Do you use dating apps or do you date people you met on the street? So I met both my partners on Field. That's kind of why I'm here. That's why I'm working with them, because I've had a pretty good track record with this app. So yeah, I met my girlfriend first last March on Field. We matched. And she sent a message that was very sweet and flirty and considerate, and we arranged a date pretty soon after that. And my boyfriend I also met on Field. We matched because I at the time was looking for a threesome with two bisexual men. That was a sexual fantasy that I had that I wanted to fulfill. I also wanted to get to know more queer men because I dated women, I dated non-binary people, and I dated a lot of straight men. But I wanted to continue like connecting with more queer men because I felt that kind of as a bisexual person, like we would have that shared lived experience. And so yeah, like we connected. He was also looking to have like a bisexual threesome. And so, yeah, like we had very compatible desires and we were like, let's make that happen. And somewhere along the way, we also fell for each other, and we'll actually be celebrating a year together in just over a week's time. So yeah, I met both of my partners on Field. And as for your second question of like whether I use dating apps, yeah, I've been using dating apps ever since I started dating, to be honest. I was very lucky to start university just about when like Tinder was starting to become really popular, Tinder and other dating apps, but like very quickly realized that kind of Field was where I could find my people. I tend to have, I think Field has a very specific culture. Everyone on there is like queer and non-monogamous and kinky, and I've definitely been able to kind of connect much faster with people on that app, which is why I use it, and that's where I met my partners. I haven't dated in the wild for a very long time. Like I knew that I was non-monogamous from a very young age, and so just very quickly found that given that the most of the world is non-monogamous, most of the world is monogamous. That's what I meant. Most of the world is monogamous. And so, it's a lot to kind of put yourself out there, like at a bar or a club or something, and have to explain your whole situation. Because even for like casual connections, like a lot of monogamous people, like aren't down to like date someone who is non-monogamous. So I think it's much easier to just get on an app and put yourself out there, and be able to be very clear and explicit in your dating profile about like what you're looking for. And so you don't have to deal with people kind of rejecting you to your face or judging you for who you are. If they don't like it, they can swipe left, and if they like what they see, then you can get talking. And there's so much ease in just knowing that there's already an initial attraction when you're talking to someone. So I'm a big fan of dating apps, and I'm a big fan of Field. So that's me. Let's see. Another question from Rania. Do you think a potential partner should be in a kind of poly mindset, or do you have experience with monogamous partners? Would that work? I wouldn't date a monogamous person, full stop. At this point in my life, I don't think that's something that I'm looking for, and I don't think that I'm the kind of person that they're looking for. But I suppose I think what you're asking is like, would I date someone who was previously monogamous but was open to polyamory? In which case, like, I think it would really depend on kind of their reasons for wanting to be polyamorous and kind of what research and kind of introspection that they've done up until this point. I think it can be very complicated kind of dating someone who is new to polyamory when you're more experienced. Like I've been doing this for like 7 years now, because in addition to kind of building a relationship, if they rely too much on you for kind of advice and support and that kind of stuff, then you can very easily kind of get into this kind of power dynamic where you're not only partners, but there's also kind of a coach kind of mental dynamic, which feels odd to me. And so I would be, if I dated someone who was very new to polyamory, I'd be looking for someone who was doing a lot of their own independent research, who had connections, whether it was like, platonic or sexual romantic, with other non-monogamous people that they could seek support from. And generally, kind of had kind of some idea of like what they were looking for, rather than just like, well, I'm trying it out. But I don't think there's anything wrong with exploration. It's not, like someone who like isn't 100% sure of kind of what they're looking for is not what I want right now. But there are definitely other people who are more open to going along and exploring that with you. I think it's just about being explicit and clear, like in your dating profiles, like in your chats, about what you're looking for, and so you can have, I guess, kind of informed consent to kind of participate in that together. But yeah, like I think, I suppose maybe that's what you mean by kind of a poly mindset, Ronya, like where, yeah, like even if you don't have kind of previous experience with polyamory, like I want you to be thinking about it. I want you to be researching it independently and not just kind of doing polyamory because I'm polyamorous. I think it gets dangerous if you're only practicing a relationship style for the person that you're into rather than come through any personal desire. I think it has a lot of potential for kind of conflict if I don't feel like my partner is being kind of true to themselves and their desires. And I think there's only so far that you can change for someone that you're attracted to, in my opinion. Okay. Question from Jitty. How do you decide which relationship to nurture or spend time on? And how do you manage or avoid jealousy between your relationships? Um, that hasn't really been an issue, in my specific dynamic. And I think it's mainly because uh, all of us had experience with polyamory prior. And so I think by the time we came together, we'd already kind of sorted out like what our likes and dislikes were and kind of how to like manage our emotions and communicate with each other. So I think I'm very fortunate in that sense. Um, so your first question is about like time management. So how do I decide kind of which relationship to kind of spend time on? I mean, it's a matter of scheduling, right? Like I think polyamory requires a surprising amount of admin. So I have a shared calendar with both of my partners so we can see kind of when the other person is free or busy. We all have different work schedules, which makes it which makes it more kind of flexible to kind of schedule things. Like, it's often the case that like my girlfriend will be busy when my boyfriend isn't, or the other way around. So then there haven't been kind of scheduling conflicts there. And also because my girlfriend is married, and lives with her husband, she spends a lot more time with him. And so, I think like we get what we want from each relationship. It isn't necessarily like 100% like the same, because people are different as well. Like for example, if I was dating an introvert and I was dating an extrovert, I wouldn't spend the exact amount of time with each of them because the introvert might get overwhelmed if I spent the same amount of time with them as I did the extrovert, right? So it's just about like what each individual needs. So yeah, like I think kind of my decision making process is looking at our schedules, kind of thinking about the kind of existing commitments we've made to each other time wise, and yeah, figuring out something that works for everyone, like, and putting it in the calendar so you don't double book yourself, and save yourself embarrassing conversations. Yeah, so second question, like how do you manage to manage or avoid jealousy between your relationships? My partners aren't very jealous of each other at all. Like I don't think that's been a problem. I think they're both kind of very gracious towards each other, and also it helps that the four of us, so me, my partners, and my girlfriend's husband, are like very close, and we spend a lot of time together, and we're very comfortable in each other's space. So like I think we're all just, we extend a lot of grace and compassion and generosity to each other, and really encourage each other to kind of, yeah, like love on each other and spend more time with each other. So I think kind of having like a generous and somewhat selfless mindset is key to practicing healthy polyamory. And of course, my dynamic is very tight knit. Like I said, like the four of us, we spend a lot of time together. But it doesn't necessarily have to be the case. Like I've had dynamics where, like, my partners were not particularly close, or they only saw each other at parties, that kind of thing. And like it's just about communicating with like each of them and kind of figuring out like what their individual kind of needs are, and doing my best to meet them and renegotiating things that don't. So it's a process, it's a lot of communication. So I think mainly it's just yeah, like a lot of scheduling and a lot of talking. um let's see, what other questions are there? Mhm. Um, Jaywalk through NYC. Is it okay to talk to your partners about each other's dynamic, or is it better to keep each individual connection separate? I think it depends on like what you're talking about. Like I think that there are some things that you need to be kind of open about, like across your connections. So kind of some basic logistics things, like if you're going to be spending time with one partner and you've scheduled that in, then it makes sense to tell your other partner about it, so they don't, like try and kind of like schedule the same time and double book you or something. I also think like kind of in terms of like sexual health, for example, like if you're using barriers with someone, or not using barriers with someone, that's something that you need to communicate with your other partners so that they can assess kind of the level of risk involved there, and kind of make their own decisions about that. So yeah, like, if you kind of want to stop using barriers with a new partner, for instance, then yeah, like that's something that would need to be a conversation with anyone that like you were already kind of not doing that with, because it's a decision that affects them as well, right? Like from a sexual health perspective. So I think there are a lot of logistical things that you need to be open about, like across your relationships. But in terms of the day to day, like in terms of like kind of what you're doing on each date that you have, or like how you feel about each other and things like that, I think it really depends. I think it's good to have like a healthy amount of communication about like kind of how things are going, in your other relationships when you're talking to each other. Um, and kind of how intimate kind of you want the knowledge to be is going to depend on what you are each kind of comfortable hearing, and also what the person that you're talking about is comfortable with you sharing, right? Like, for example, I might have a partner who was who was not okay with me sharing, I don't know, like sexual details like of the sex that we have like to other people, right? And so no matter how much someone else wanted to know that information, even if it was like coming from just a genuine place of curiosity and interest, I'd have to respect that boundary. So yeah, like I think this is a nuanced question. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. And yeah, but like I think the most important thing is that like each relationship needs to be independent and stand on its own. So I think like a very common thing for couples who are new to polyamory is like they want to date the same person so that they can all three of them can just do everything together. But that can only go so far, like if you want to kind of build an actual relationship with someone. Like ultimately, like you want to have like each of the individual connections be strong and kind of standing on their own, as well as like the group dynamic being strong as well, just using that as an example. So yeah, like I think it's good, great, like if you all want to spend time together and have a very close connection and know a lot about each other, but it's also really important for the relationships to function separately as well. I hope that answers your question. Um, let's see. Kevin, when you were new to polyamory, what resources or experiences were most helpful and insightful? Where did you gain the most wisdom into who you are and what works for you? So let me think. When I was new to polyamory, kind of non-monogamy, open relationships in general, this was in 2016. And at the time, I feel like there were fewer resources than there are now. I read some books. I read The Ethical Slut. I listened to some podcasts. And but then I think a lot of it was me winging it, which in retrospect I think was a bad idea. um, I was at the time, like, I was in a long distance relationship, and we both mutually decided to open up the relationship so that we could get our sexual needs met. So at the time, it was like a sexually open relationship, not a romantically open one. Um, I didn't start kind of exploring polyamory until maybe like proper kind of polyamory until like 4 years ago, but I feel like it'd been kind of slowly moving from non-monogamy to polyamory in the years before that. So I would say, like, yeah, there are lots of books and resources out there. I do my best with my page at Polyphilia blog. And there are a lot of other content creators out there who are doing really amazing work. And there are blogs online, and there are lots of articles. I've been interviewed in Cosmo and Women's Health, and other publications on various things related to non-monogamy if you don't have the time to like read a whole book. So there's always so much at your disposal, but I think the most important thing to remember is that nothing compares to the actual reality of practicing polyamory. You may think that you're ready for it in theory, and you do like loads of research and introspection and stuff like that, but that can only help you so far, because nothing can prepare you for like actually going to practice it, and you will likely encounter a lot of speed bumps along the way. I think there's a lot of things you can do to prevent kind of, the more kind of basic pitfalls, but you have to be prepared for kind of big emotions to come up and for unexpected circumstances to arise that you'll have to just deal with in the moment. So I think the biggest teacher has really just been experience, and that takes time. I think there's this misconception that like to do polyamory ethically, you need to just be like 100% perfect at it from the get-go, and the reality of it is just like most people are really messy at the start because you need to figure things out, and sometimes you get really dysregulated and triggered, and you make a decision that might not necessarily be the best in the moment if you had a bit more time to think about it. But that's part of the process. People are messy in monogamous relationships as well, relationships in general. So I think there has to be room to make mistakes and learn from them, and hopefully do better when you move on from those. So yeah, like I think lots of resources, but definitely once you feel like you've gotten a good idea of kind of what you're looking for, the best thing to do is just jump into it and see where that takes you. Yeah. um Capitan Mike asks, how do you manage family gatherings with your relationships? If it's someone's birthday, then do all of them come with you? So I'm in the unique position that my family are not in the same country as me. So I visit them and sometimes they visit me, but my parents are in another country. So the last time that my parents came to visit, they met both my partners separately. So yeah, like we went out for a meal with my boyfriend, we went out for a meal with my girlfriend, and that was nice. Yeah, and so yeah, like I'm very open with my immediate family, like my parents, about being bisexual and polyamorous. I am not open about it with my extended family. And that's just kind of partly my own decision. Like, I just don't feel like I have the energy to explain it to them, and I'm not that close to them, so they don't need to know. But as for kind of my partner's families, I've met my boyfriend's family, and yeah, we get on. I also met my girlfriend's family. I think I actually met them for the first time at my girlfriend's wedding. So I haven't had a proper sit down kind of chat with them yet, but maybe at some point. But I'm in no rush. Like I think it's great to be able to be open with your family and your loved ones about kind of this aspect of your life, but I don't think it's mandatory. Like if your family are unsafe to be open about that kind of thing about, you can like pick better people to be out to. Like I want to be out to people who I know will kind of accept and validate me for who I am, rather than kind of chasing for validation that I know I'm not going to get. So I think it's a very personal decision, and I don't think any less of people who aren't out to their family, because I think it's a very personal decision. But yeah, as for kind of someone's birthday, my birthday is coming up next month, and all my partners will be there. Well, my partners and my polycule and kind of other kind of casual people that I mess around with. We're all going to be together, and we're all going to have a gay old time. And yeah, for like other people's birthdays, yeah, like we all spend time together as well, you know. But yeah, like I don't know if I'm the best person to ask about kind of family because like my family are somewhere else. So it's not really kind of something that affects me kind of day to day. But yeah, that's me. Okay, let's see. Um, just looking at the time, we're at the half-hour mark, and so just a friendly reminder that after this live stream, I will be hopping in the group chat, which is being hosted in app on Field, where yeah, you'll get to kind of continue the discussion with me a bit more and talk about polyamory and asking more questions. So if you're interested in continuing the discussion after this live stream, which will be ending in about half an hour's time, then yeah, I'll see you on the app. And also, I'll be doing another live stream next month on June 29th. So if you want to kind of ask me more questions there and tune in, yeah, you can join in on that. And for those of you who are watching from the UK, if you are in London on June 12th, come and see me because I will be co-hosting the first London Field Social at Double Standard. And yeah, I'm very excited for that. And so yeah, I'll be there on June 12th, and I hope you will be too. So okay, let's look at some more questions. Let's see. Oh, interesting question from Zairi Johnson. Sorry if I mispronounced that. When would you want to be introduced to metamors in a new relationship? How would you go about asking to meet them? So for those of you who are unaware of what a metamor is basically the term that you use in the polyamorous community to refer to your partner's partner who you're not dating. So, for example, my girlfriend's husband is my metamor, or like, you know, a casual partner that my boyfriend has would be my metamor. You know, like basically, yeah, your partner's partner, or however loosely you define the word partner. So when would I want to be introduced? I think I'm pretty lax about it. I think some people, they want to kind of get to know the person that they're dating before they're comfortable meeting their other partners. For me, like it's no big deal. You know, like if I've been on like maybe like 1 or 2 dates with someone and I feel like, you know, we're gonna keep seeing each other, then I'll be like, yeah, like, you know, I want to know the other people who are close to you and who, you know, are in your life. I want to know the people that you love and kind of see if they're my vibe as well. You know, and it doesn't have to be a big thing. Like it doesn't have to be like a big sit down thing. Like I have met metamors at big events where we're also interacting with other people as well as each other. And so if you're worried about it being potentially awkward, I think that's what I would recommend. Like, you know, meeting each other in a scenario where like you're not forced to talk to each other, as opposed to like if you're like doing like a sit down meal or something. But yeah, like I'm pretty flexible. Equally, I have had metamors that I've never met, or that I've met like once and never met again. Like I think it's very much personal preference. Obviously, like I have my core kind of dynamic, you know, the four of us, and we're all very close. But you know, kind of outside of that, the other people that they date, like if they want to meet me, if they don't want to meet me, I don't care. I don't mind. You know, the last thing I want is to force someone into a situation that they're not actually comfortable with or that they're not ready for. So, yeah, I think that's my answer. And you know, I think in terms of like asking to meet them, it would literally just be like, oh, you know, like I want to get to know you more, and I want to get to know the people that like you love and are close to. You know, like kind of see what they're like and kind of the people that you have in your life. And you know, it doesn't have to be a thing for me. Okay, so let's see. Da, 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 da. Okay, interesting. Omar, what advice do you have for a couple that's opening up? We don't know if polyamory is what we want, but want to meet people to have loving and caring relationships. Hmm. I think, like, like I said earlier, I think it's really important to do your research, at first, and have a lot of conversations, right? Like, because what you're doing, opening up from, I presume, an existing monogamous relationship, is a hard thing, right? Like, you are upending the kind of foundations of your relationship in a very big way. You're going to have to change some of the routines that you've been familiar with, and you're going to have to redefine what love and commitment, and your relationship in general kind of mean to each other and yourselves, right? Like, a lot of people, for example, like, if they base like the security of their relationship on the fact that it's exclusive and they're not dating anyone else, well, if they open up their relationship, it's going to be very destabilizing because they're no longer exclusive. Then they're like, oh no, how do I know that my partner loves me, right? So those are the kind of conversations that you're going to need to have, right? Like, without the exclusivity, without monogamy, what kind of how are you going to feel secure in this relationship? And kind of how do you affirm to each other that, yeah, like, you are kind of committed to each other as well as other people. um and I think another thing I'd recommend is to be able to, as much as possible, date as individuals. So what I mean by that is, forming kind of separate relationships with people, even if you're dating the same person, to form like separate connections with them. Because even if you're both, hypothetically, dating the same person, you're going to have very unique connections with the same person. It's not going to progress the same rate in the same way at all. So, and to really understand that, like, you might have different desires from your partner, and that's okay. Some people, they might be compatible in a monogamous relationship, but once they open up, they might want completely different things from non-monogamy or polyamory, and that's something that you have to figure out by yourself. And you kind of have to start from a standpoint of, okay, well, what are my kind of needs and desires and long-term goals, kind of for myself? How do I envision my relationships looking like? What are my personal motivations for wanting to be in like a certain relationship style? And then kind of finding people who are compatible with that, rather than going, okay, kind of what have we decided is okay, and kind of having to work within the limitations of that. I think it's very much, as much as it is a journey for you as a couple, it's also a journey for the two of you as individuals, and that can be a very scary and sobering realization, but it's a very necessary part of the process if both of you want to be truly certain about whether you're as compatible as you are kind of opened up as you were when you were monogamous. It's a hard thing, and I think apart from that, like, just knowing that it's okay to kind of admit that you have kind of difficult feelings coming up, and to talk to each other about it, rather than holding it in because you feel like you're going to rain on the other's parade or something. Like, if you talk about it, it's very important to be open with each other, because I mean, how will your partner know that you're feeling jealous or insecure, or know how to take care of you, or kind of renegotiate your agreements if you're not being open with them about how you're feeling. And sometimes kind of bottling these feelings up will just kind of lead to bigger explosions down the road, which is not what you want. So wherever possible, kind of be like open and honest about like the challenges that you're experiencing along the way, and hopefully, you'll be able to, look after each other in the process, while also kind of staying true to yourselves. Yeah, hope that helps. Let's see. Let's look at some more questions. Oh, I'm gonna go up a bit. There was a question earlier from Misha. What experiences have you had opening up about polyamory to your surroundings, like family and friends? So, my experiences with opening up to friends was, in most cases, it went well, and in some cases, it didn't. So I'm very fortunate to live in a city that is very queer friendly and generally open minded, and so a lot of my friends who I spend a lot of time with are already kind of queer and all polyamorous. So telling them about it and being open with them about it was not an issue. However, I've had some kind of long-term friends that I've fallen out with over the fact that I'm polyamorous. I think that a lot of people kind of misperceive polyamory as like a sort of kind of free for all. And so, a lot of monogamous people think that you're out to kind of convert them to polyamory or like to influence their partner to cheat on them in some way. And so, like I had a childhood friend who is monogamous, and we don't speak anymore. Because she was worried that if I spent too much time with her and her partner in particular, that her partner would also want to be polyamorous, and she didn't want to risk that. To which my response is like, okay, but it's like if her partner wanted to be polyamorous, he would have made that decision kind of independently. And like I might have been the kind of catalyst to that, but like it's not like I kind of tried to influence them in any way, Anyway, but like yeah, so I think it's been a mixed experience with friends. I think some people are more accepting of it than others. And for those who aren't, they're kind of not really people I would want to keep in my life anyway, because I need people who are around me who are in my corner, who understand kind of what I'm going through and are able to offer support around that. So yeah, like I don't need that kind of judgmental, kind of insecure energy in my life. And so yeah, kind of that's been my experience. As for family, it's been a complex journey for sure. I first kind of opened up to my family about being in an open relationship. At the time, it was not polyamorous, but like in an open relationship when I was 18. Yeah, when I was 18. And they had a lot of things to say that were not very nice. I think they came from a place of being concerned about me. And I think like the first thing that they thought was that my partner was taking advantage of me and didn't actually love me, because if they loved me, then they wouldn't be looking at other people. And I was like, I mean, I love them and I'm kind of interested in other people. So like, I don't know what you're saying about that. And then, there was a lot of things being bandied around like that. Like I didn't understand what it meant to truly be in love yet. And that like I hadn't experienced true commitment, and that was why I was messing around. I think a lot of people see polyamory as like a temporary state, like, and that you eventually kind of like settle down and kind of pick your person. And at the time, I think my parents were just very convinced that like at some point I would come to my senses. It's been a couple of years now. And so I think at this point, particularly given that like, I literally, my job is as a polyamorous content creator, I think it would be very hard for my parents to continue being in denial about the fact that this is probably going to be a pretty big facet of my life for like some time to come. So yeah, like I think it's been a long road. I think that it took some time for them to kind of get to where they are now, which is that they accept that this is my life and my decisions and stuff like that, but they don't necessarily understand what's going on, and that's fine. I don't need them to. So yeah, I think with my family it was very difficult, for sure, and I think that's like a experience that a lot of polyamorous people share. In particular, I've spoken to a lot of queer polyamorous people who had no problem telling their family that they were gay or that they were trans, but had kind of huge issues when kind of telling them that they were polyamorous. Because I think kind of monogamy is so deeply entrenched in our society. And, people might be like, well, okay, you might love someone different or you might be someone different, but you're still going to find your person and settle down, right? And when it's like, well, no, then that can be a very challenging idea for a lot of people. So, yeah, overall, yeah, with friends, it's been a mixed but mostly positive experience. With family, it was very hard for a lot of years. And I think it's really only in the last 6 months that I feel that we've actually kind of gotten somewhere with kind of having a mutual understanding about that. Let's see, let's have more questions. Ooh, Ron B. You asked two questions. I'm going to answer your second one. How do you navigate from a casual or swinger lifestyle to polyamory? I had a friend with benefits, which has grown to what feels like poly, and it's new, confusing territory. Great question, Ron. It's so this doesn't happen to every couple, but like what I have found a lot of the time is that if you're like engaging in some type of like sexually open relationship, whether it's like swinging or you both have like friends with benefits and that kind of thing, and you're seeing the same people kind of consistently over like a significant period of time, feelings are can kind of crop up. Like I feel like if you've got good chemistry and you spend a lot of time together, like yeah, like there is emotional intimacy and attachment at the very least, even if it isn't necessarily romantic. Some people manage to kind of keep it casual and that's kind of where they stay and they're happy with that. And some people, yeah, like it grows into kind of more romantic feelings. And then you have to start kind of talking about whether you might actually want to be polyamorous instead. A lot of couples grow from kind of monogamy to non-monogamy to polyamory. That's kind of the journey that I was on. And yeah, like I think it's kind of gradual, I guess. Like some people jump straight into polyamory if they don't feel that kind of casual sex is their thing, which is great. I think there's all kinds of different ways that you can engage in this. But to answer your question, okay, so you have a friend with benefits who kind of you're what kind of developing kind of more of a romantic connection with. And yeah, it is new and confusing. Fair enough. So, I mean, I think it would obviously this would presume you're having kind of conversations with the partner that you've been swinging with up until this point about what this means, right? Like how will you be doing things differently from here, right? Like not just kind of in terms of like practically, but also emotionally, right? Like what um, kind of what do each of you want out of this, and do they align, right? Because your partner might want to be like, oh well, I still want to continue kind of just casually swinging and this isn't really kind of what I'm comfortable with. Or your partner might be like, oh amazing, I've also been getting close to someone else, or I want to be kind of closer with someone else and I want to explore that. And so yeah, like this might be you might be at a crossroads at this point in time. And you and your partners, all have to decide like whether you're in alignment in terms of your values and your desires or not. But I think it's also important to consider that like it's one thing to jump from monogamy to non-monogamy, but I also think that it's challenging to move from kind of sexual non-monogamy to polyamory, because beforehand it's like, well, yeah, we're sleeping with other people, but we're still only in love with each other. Like there's still kind of the one true love, the soulmate, the other half, that kind of situation. Whereas with polyamory, you throw that out the window as well. You're like, okay, nothing's exclusive anymore, like where anything can happen, anyone's a possibility. And yeah, like that's scary. There isn't that kind of built-in kind of hierarchical structure that there is with other types of non-monogamy. And so I think kind of what I said earlier, right? Like embrace the feelings, talk to your people about it, and kind of see what you figure out from there. But I wish you the best with this transition. And yeah, like I hope you will kind of find what you are looking for. Okay, let's have a look. Question from Anastasia. Do you stay looking at people on apps even when you're satisfied with how many partners you have? How do you know when to go off field, or will field and polyamory always work together? Great question. Okay, so the way that I personally do it, which doesn't have to necessarily be kind of what everyone else does, but this is just what I do, is like I really love meeting new people. I really like kind of connecting with new people and doing fun things together, and having sex with new people. I find that would be a fun thing as well. But obviously, we all have 24 hours in a day and 7 days in a week. And I also have existing kind of commitments like with my existing partners, right? So kind of how I do it is, at the moment, I have two relationships that I spend a significant amount of time on. and I have time that I carve out for myself, whether it's kind of to do my work or to go pursue my hobbies or just to be by myself, right? And kind of any time that I have that's left over after that, then I can use those on dates. And I make it very clear to the new people that I'm dating that I'm not looking for another serious relationship. One, because I already have two, and two, because like I just simply don't have the time or energy to devote to another one. So, there's a ceiling to kind of how much we can connect, up to a certain point. And so I make a point to seek out people who are also looking for the same thing. Like maybe it's like, I don't know, a couple who only really want to kind of, step outside their relationship once a month. Or it might be someone who has a super busy schedule and, only wants casual connections, or like whatever else, right? Like someone who's looking for the same thing. And so, we talk about kind of what we're looking for at the start. We hash out our agreements, and we go from there. So at the moment, outside of my kind of two relationships, I've got a number of casual things going on that most of them I met off field. Um, and yeah, and they're all kind of very as and when, whereas like I make like with my boyfriend and my girlfriend, like we make a specific point about spending a certain number of times a week with each other. So with each of them I spend at least 1 day a week with them, and then maybe like the four of us will hang out as a group, ideally at least like once every 2 weeks. But then with my casual partners, it's kind of more like, oh, if you're in town, or if I'm in like where you live, or you happen to be kind of free this night, I want to have a spontaneous date. And so it's very easy, and it's very chill. So for me, I haven't been like off field in a while, but I'm not like, I guess I'm not like swiping on it daily or anything like that, but like I haven't like kind of turned off my profile in any way, and I'll have a look if I get kind of people like likes, and have a glance every now and then. And like I think that like it's really great that we have an app that's focused on kind of non-monogamous dating specifically, because yeah, like non-monogamous people are dating all the time. And so it's like I think it's about time more apps kind of cater to that, because I think yeah, like we are the least likely to actually delete our dating apps just because of the way our lives work. So yeah, obviously I'm satisfied with the number of relationships that I'm in, but I wouldn't say no to kind of exploring a new connection, however limited, however casual, if the opportunity arises. But some people, they want to turn off their profiles once they reach kind of a saturation point. Some people, they kind of date in bursts. And some people, like, they only go on there like with their partner and look for people together as a couple. And that like it's very individual, and so that's my answer, but you might have a completely different approach, and that is a-okay. Let's look at more questions. Just the time check, we've got about 7 minutes left, and so just one more reminder that I will be in London on June 12th for the first London Field Social. So if you want to say hi to me in person, you can join me at the Double Standard on the evening of June 12th. And I'll also be hosting another live stream similar to this one on June 29th. So put that in your calendars, guys, and I'll see you there. And also, with 7 minutes to go, please, 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 if you want to continue this discussion, join me on the Field group chat. There is a group chat dedicated to discussing this topic that will be running for an hour after this. So if you want to continue the conversation there and ask me more questions, if I didn't get to your question today or within this hour, then you can ask it in the group chat. So yeah, like join me there, and I'll see you there in a couple of minutes time. Okay, let's I think I have time for probably kind of one or two more questions. So let's see. Kimberly asks, what advice would you give someone who is in a polyamorous relationship where the third partner is only attracted to one of the three? Wait, what? The third partner is only attracted to one of the. So are there four of you in total, or are there three of you? So I didn't think that through when I picked this question. Okay, I'm gonna answer both scenarios, because yeah, like I think it's basically the same question. Okay, well, I, as you know, like I have two partners and my girlfriend has a husband, and like I'm close to my girlfriend's husband, and we hook up sometimes, but we're not in a relationship. And I also have other metamors, so like my partners also date other people that I have never met, and even if I've met them, I might not be attracted to them. So I think it's a very important distinction, to make here, where like just because you're polyamorous, it doesn't mean that you have to date everyone that your partner's into. Most polyamorous people date separately, like as in they have kind of separate dynamics with separate people. And because you might not have the same sexuality, you might not have the same type, and that's fine. So yeah, I mean, if one of you in your polycule is only attracted to kind of one person in the dynamic, then I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, if like they engage with that person and they develop a relationship with that person, and maybe they're friends with the other two or three or not. But yeah, no one has to date everyone else. Like that's not how it works. You date the people that you're actually attracted to, like not just because that your partner's dating them. You have complete freedom and autonomy over the people that you get to be in a relationship with, and if your partner is pressuring you to date someone else that they're dating, just because they want you to, you have every right to say no if you're not attracted to them, or if you just don't want to for whatever reason. Like I think because the media has kind of focused on kind of polyamory as like triads, I think triads have been like the main way that polyamory has been represented in the media. A lot of people think that you have to date everyone in the polycule in order for it to be polyamory. That is not the case. I'm not in a relationship with my girlfriend's husband. I'm not in a relationship with people like other people that my partners are dating. I've never even met some of them, and that's okay. And yeah, like you get to make your own decisions about the people you're in a relationship with. Like, don't feel like you don't give in to kind of coercion from your partners about the people that you're dating. I'm not saying that's your specific situation, Kimberly. I'm just saying this in general. If your partner's pressuring you to date someone that you don't want to date, don't. You're allowed to say no. Yeah. And I'm saying this in particular to the queer women out there because I have seen this way too many times where a queer woman's kind of male partner is really into this fantasy of having two girlfriends who are into each other and tries to force a connection between his two girlfriends. No, 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 no. Don't do that. So yeah, if you find yourself in that situation, yeah, just you're allowed to pick who you want to date. No one else. Okay? It's okay to give it a try, but if you don't vibe, that's okay, and that's not your fault. So yeah, I hope I've made myself clear in that front. But yeah, like if you're in a polyamorous relationship where like kind of one of you's only attracted to one person, then yeah, like talk about it and talk about your feelings around that. Maybe if someone kind of ends up having their feelings kind of unreciprocated, yeah, like obviously that sucks, and you can have a conversation about it, but don't ever kind of make someone feel bad for not being attracted to you because it is what it is. Hope that answers the question. I hope that was the question that you wanted me to answer. So okay, 2 minutes left. Oh gosh. Okay, I will answer a quick one. Oh my gosh. Oh, Christopher Waller asks, how do you navigate non-hierarchical polyamory when you may live closer to one partner or have more entangled lives? So, I think I can answer this very quickly because my girlfriend lives with her husband and spends like more time with him, and obviously is more entangled with him. And I think like the really important thing to establish about non-hierarchical polyamory is that you do not necessarily have to have identical relationships. Like each relationship stands on its own, and as long as you are, like as long as like your dynamic isn't being like overly governed like by like someone else who isn't part of the relationship, that's non-hierarchical. Like a hierarchy is in place if like you know, one person's dictating the terms of the other relationships excessively and kind of making all the rules for someone else's relationship. But you know, obviously people have lives, and kind of some people that are more entangled with some partners than others, and that's just a natural kind of part of how things work. So, I mean, if you're looking for more entanglement with your partner than kind of what they can provide, then maybe that's a conversation that you need to have, and whether you're okay with that, and whether they have the capacity to give more or not. And you know, but yeah, like if rather than kind of comparing kind of your relationships to each other, or comparing kind of your relationship with the person then and their relationship with someone else, I would think about kind of what needs are being met or not met in your specific relationship, and have a chat about that and what you can give to each other, rather than worrying about what they're necessarily doing with other people, if that makes sense. um Hope that helps. And with that, that's the end of this live stream. It's now 10 p.m. on my side, but I'll be jumping to the group chat now on Field, so I'll be on my phone and answering more of your questions in the group chat. So if you want to continue this conversation with me, yeah, please join me there. Otherwise, if you're jumping off now, it's been a pleasure, and I'll see you again either on the 12th at the London Field Social, or on the 29th at the next live stream. Thank you so much.